You lived an entire life before the age of 3. You were born, heard your mother's voice, you took your first steps, and you remember none of it. Not 1 second. Most people think the answer is simple. Your brain just wasn't ready yet. You were too young. That's wrong. And the real reason is so strange that once you hear it, you'll never look at a baby photo of yourself the same way again. Here's the part that breaks the simple explanation completely. Babies can form memories. We know this for a fact. In the 1980s, a psychologist named Carolyn Rovey Collier ran an experiment. She tied a ribbon from a baby's ankle to a mobile hanging above their crib. The babies learned fast. Kick your leg, the mobile moves. They loved it. When she brought the same babies back days later, they remembered instantly. 2-month-olds held that memory for a couple of days. 6-month-olds remembered for weeks, so the brain can learn, it can store, it can recall, but by adulthood, every trace is gone. For decades, nobody could fully explain why. Part of the answer is structural. Deep in your brain is a small curved structure called the hippocampus. It's the engine of memory. It takes a lived moment, a birthday, a conversation, a walk in the rain, and turns it into a story you can replay later. In adults, the hippocampus works closely with the prefrontal cortex to tag and store these moments permanently. In infants, that system is barely built. The wiring between the hippocampus and the cortex isn't finished. A key gateway region called the dentate gyrus doesn't fully connect until somewhere between age 2 and 4. So your infant brain could form short-term memories. It just had no way to move them into permanent storage. But that's only half the story. In 2014, 2 neuroscientists in Toronto found something that changed everything we thought we knew about infant memory. They asked one question that sounded almost insane. What if the same process that builds your brain is also the thing that destroys your memories? Sheena Jocelyn and Paul Franklin had a theory. In the first years of life, your hippocampus produces new brain cells at an extraordinary rate. This is called neurogenesis, and it's essential. Those new cells build the circuits you'll use for your entire life. But every new neuron that joins an existing circuit disrupts what was already wired there, including the connections holding your earliest memories. They tested it on mice. When they sped up neurogenesis in adult mice, the mice started forgetting things they already knew. When they slowed it down in infant mice, those infant mice held on to memories far longer than normal. The conclusion, published in the journal Science, was almost impossible to believe. Your baby brain wasn't too weak to hold memories. It was too busy growing. The same explosion of new neurons that built your mind also erased what was stored inside it. Your earliest years weren't lost because they were never saved. They were lost because your brain kept building new rooms and tearing down the old walls to do it. There's a deeper layer here, possibly the strangest part of the entire story. To form what scientists call autobiographical memory, the kind where you're the main character of your own story, you need a sense of self. You need to understand that you exist as a person separate from everything around you. Psychologists Mark Howe and Mary Courage found that before roughly 18 to 24 months, infants don't recognize themselves as individuals at all. There's a classic test for this. Put a small mark on a baby's nose. Sit them in front of a mirror. Before 18 months, the baby treats the reflection like a stranger. They don't touch their own face. After 18 months, something shifts. They reach up. They understand. That's me. And that exact moment, the birth of self-recognition, lines up almost perfectly with the earliest age memories can begin to form. In other words, you don't remember being a baby, partly because there was no you yet. Not the way you experience yourself now. There was no narrator inside your head turning experience into a story that belonged to someone. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If there was no continuous self back then, and the brain holding those experiences was rebuilt almost from scratch, is the baby in your old photos actually you? Or is it someone else completely? Someone who lived in the same body, but whose mind was taken apart and rebuilt, piece by piece, into the person sitting here right now. There's one more piece. Language. Psychologist Catherine Nelson spent years studying how lasting memories form in children. Her conclusion, language doesn't just describe memory, it builds the structure memory needs to survive. Before you could speak, your experiences existed as raw sensation, sound, texture, emotion, light. But with no words to organize any of it, those impressions had nothing to hold on to. Once children start talking, especially once parents start saying things like, "Remember when we went to the park?" memory formation improves dramatically. Language gives memory a skeleton. Without it, experience is just water with no container. It exists in the moment, and then it's gone. And here's something almost nobody knows. The age of your earliest memory isn't fixed by biology alone. It depends on where you grew up. Psychologist Chi Wang at Cornell found that in Western cultures, where parents constantly narrate a child's life, asking questions, telling stories, earliest memories tend to begin around age 3.5. Among the Maori of New Zealand, where oral storytelling and personal history are deeply emphasized, earliest memories reach as far back as age 2.5. In some East Asian cultures, where childhood narratives focus less on the individual, first memories often don't begin until closer to age 4. The culture you were raised in literally rewrote how far back your mind can reach. So here's what actually happened to your missing years. Your hippocampus wasn't ready to build permanent memories, and even when it started trying, a flood of new neurons tore through the very circuits holding them. You had no sense of self to anchor experience to, and you had no language to give experience a shape that could survive. It wasn't one single failure. It was everything happening at once. Every human who has ever lived went through exactly this. Every person you've ever met carries the same black hole where their earliest years should be. And the real answer isn't that your brain was too simple to remember. It's that your brain was doing something far more important than remembering. It was becoming you. And that required, quite literally, taking apart the person who came before.